A star-studded video urging people from ethnic minority communities to get the COVID vaccine is to be shown across the UK's main commercial TV channels later. Sanjeev Bhaskar, Meera Syal and Romesh Ranganathan are among the celebrities who feature in the video, which has previously been released online. I'm delighted to welcome now to the show Dr. Aseem Malhotra, cardiologist and somebody who has been speaking out in terms of how we encourage take-up of the vaccine. Aseem, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Mark.
Really brilliant to have you on the programme. The bottom line is the vaccine will only be effective, it will only be the silver bullet if take-up is substantial.
Yeah, Mark, that's true. And I think I've actually seen this video, and I think it's a very well done video. It's very accurate. It's very honest. I think it's powerful. It's emotive. And I do think that coming from, many sort of well-known faces, certainly in the ethnic minority community, in terms of celebrities, I think will have an impact. So I'm really pleased that they've done this video. In fact, one of the people involved in the video, Gurinder Chadha, the film director, actually was somebody that came to me and asked me whether or not she should have the vaccine because she was receiving a lot of what was ultimately misinformation online regarding the vaccine. So I think what we need to do first and foremost is try and understand where this hesitancy is coming from and why it's disproportionately affecting the BAME community. And what I would say, Mark, is I think there are both irrational and rational fears.
Right.
And the irrational fears are things like the vaccine contains alcohol or pork, it's going to alter your DNA, it's going to affect your fertility. I mean, this is complete nonsense.
Or it's going to give Bill Gates control over your body. Exactly.
There's a microchip or whatever, right? Absolutely. So, this is complete nonsense. And this is, complete disinformation. And as somebody who's also a big critic of the pharmaceutical industry, I'm somebody that has, always tried to expose the problems and issues about transparency in research.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these sorts of claims, there's no mechanism, no biological mechanism for these things to happen. So it's, almost impossible for the vaccines to be doing these things. The rational fears, however, which I think are important and need to be addressed, certainly in terms of how we move forward, Mark, is that actually, there's a history of this going back several years, that unfortunately, there is a big problem with too much medicine, overprescription of drugs. And that the root of that problem is the pharmaceutical industry. So it's now estimated prescribed medications are the third most common cause of death after heart disease and cancer, according to one analysis.
They are the cause of death.
Oh, yes, because of side effects. Right.
Amazing.
And in fact, this issue is such a big problem, Mark, that two leading medical journals, the BMJ and JAMA Internal Medicine, over the last several years have launched campaigns to wind back the harms of too much medicine. And the root problem behind this, unfortunately, Mark, is the pharmaceutical industry. So they are, of course, businesses. They are there. They have a legal obligation to make profit for their shareholders. But what most people don't realize, they're not there to give you the best treatment necessarily. And the real scandal is that those with a responsibility to patients and to scientific integrity, specifically doctors, academic institutions, and medical journals, collude with industry for financial gain. And that degree of collusion, unfortunately, has led to the fact that, between 2009 and 2014, the pharmaceutical industry paid $13 billion US dollars in fines for criminal activity that included illegal marketing of drugs, hiding data on harms, and manipulation of results. So this problem hasn't been tackled. These structural system failures haven't been tackled, Mark. And then a report in the UK by the Academy of Medical Sciences in 2015 actually revealed that 4/5 of GPs and 2/3 members of the public did not trust drug company-sponsored research. So this problem is sort of been lingering for a while. So I can understand why there is this skepticism around the vaccine. Having said that, as a clinician, as someone who has honest conversations with the patients and airs these issues with them, when you look at all the drugs out there, vaccines by far historically are the safest by, a huge margin. So when it comes to this particular vaccine, I think, of course, anything and everything has a potential risk of harm, Mark, even driving your car, getting on an aeroplane. The question is, what is that risk of harm and what are the benefits? And certainly when it comes to vaccines, the risk of harms are very, very small. And right now, we're in this lockdown because of COVID, and we want to do everything we can to safely come out of it and hopefully not have another lockdown again. But those root causes I've talked about before need to be addressed. And myself and other doctors over the last few years have actually called for a full public inquiry on the scale of Chilcot into the Iraq war to solve this problem. Because until we do it and have honest conversations and people in government and people, healthcare leaders come out and say, listen, we know there is a major problem with the pharmaceutical industry and the way that research is disseminated and how it affects clinical decisions in the consultation room. Until this is sorted, we are not going to be able to solve this problem moving forward in the longer term.
Well, of course, because the pharmaceutical industry, which of course is based on a business model, will say to any doctor that the patient needs this medication. In fact, it's not always the best answer, but it's what makes them money. You as a cardiologist have had concerns for some patients about statins. I know that there's a role for them, but perhaps not as widespread as others think. Similarly, people with type 2 diabetes shouldn't always resort to medication. There are other treatments for that too.
Mark, you're absolutely right. And I think this big issue right now in terms of, what we've got with COVID-19 is a fast pandemic on top of a slow pandemic. And that slow pandemic has been lingering for a long time, is where we haven't tackled prevention. So we've got all these lifestyle-related diseases that you've talked about, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, which are now the biggest killers in the Western world. And at the same time, we're over-medicating with tablets that actually have very marginal benefits at best, come with side effects,
expensive,
while simultaneously not addressing lifestyle. And if we get that balance right by getting to the root cause of the problem, then very quickly, Mark, we can have a healthier population, less susceptible to infection, and hopefully, let's hope we don't have another pandemic with a new virus in the next few years. But if and when we do, if we've got a healthier population to start with, hopefully we won't need a lockdown next time.
Very reassuring words about the vaccine. Fantastic to hear that you're encouraging people to get protected, Asim, and clearly widespread uptake will be our way out of this pandemic. Are the BAME community in particular priority candidates for the vaccine?
Yeah, so again, a very important point you've raised there, Mark. One, there is a greater vulnerability amongst the BAME community, usually a combination of factors, a lot of it lifestyle related, some of it socioeconomic factors. And that disproportionate distrust that comes from the BAME community from vaccines comes historically because there is, unfortunately, institutional racism within the NHS, within research. So people from the BAME community feel less
Powerful stuff